Coming, when you come in and you see a full house, there are two things that happen. One is you have a lot of expectations and you're wondering, oh my God, so many people want to hear. The second is you feel nice because you feel there is at least somebody. So it's going to be a conversation. It will not be just a dialogue between Wu Chong, who's the CEO of Global Energy Alliance, and my name is Ashish Khanna. I'm the Director General of International Solar Alliance. Let me take 30 seconds to introduce, if all of you are not aware, International Solar Alliance was born exactly 10 years back at Paris COP, the idea. And now it is a treaty-based multilateral organization of 125 countries. It's not coming out very well. Can you hear well? Is this better? Yes. Something needed to be done. It's been done now. Okay, great. So now International Solar Alliance is a treaty-based multilateral organization of 125 countries. And it's a Global South agency. And we have CEO of Global Energy Alliance. I'm going to request Wu Chong to introduce. What we will do is I'll have 2 or 3 questions to ask him. I will share some of my perspectives. But if you don't mind, after 15-20 minutes, we will like you to ask us questions because that might be a better use of this conversation. So Wu Chong, while you introduce yourself, let me ask you, from where you sit, what are the top priorities on energy access and energy transition and affordability of Global South? How do you see the whole debate?
So thank you, Ashish. Thank you, all the audience, for being here. I agree with your assessment as to why they're here, but there's a third reason. This is probably the coolest space that you will find the entire Gulf area. So I hope you do stay here for a long time. There are many very interesting dialogue that's happening here. So we've been working between the two of us. He was in the World Bank, I was in the ADB. We both decided to leave around the same time to the other side so that we can look at the development space from a different angle, from the philanthropic partnership angle, to do something different to really make a change. We've been at development for many years, and here we're talking about COP30. I hope we can make a difference in the coming future. But why are we not really making a difference in terms of impact on 1.5 degree, as well as number of people who need access to clean energy? The energy is not just simple engineering part of it. Energy is the foundation of people's livelihood, dignity, and prosperity. So in a way, energy does provide the bridge to prosperity, which is needed for everybody, right? So what we do from our organization, the Global Energy Alliance, is to work with partners like the ISA, multilaterals, private sector, NGOs, and communities to see what kind of problems that can be solved together to make sure that we can reach that ultimate goal of, in our case, the alliance to bring in enough knowledge and resource to provide access to 1 billion people with clean energy. At the same time, reduce the greenhouse gas by 4 gigatons, and then also create jobs. I know many of you are young people here, so we need to focus on creating the jobs that's green for both people who are benefiting from the new business and also the people who may be losing their livelihood from the fossil fuel industry to transition together. Now, what's the difference that we can make in 2025? There's a movie long time ago in 1985 when I was in college called Back to the Future. And that was it's time travel, right? So it goes from 1985 to some way in the future where life is completely different. And just recently there is a post in the social media. The date that they went in the future was November 7, 2025. And I was like mind-blowing that transition, that's like 40 years or so. And, cars are flying around everywhere, we're not there yet. But in that movie, we never actually thought about the AI, the internet connectivity. Now we have that. So we have to make sure that we can harness the power of digital, digital connectivity and artificial intelligence, so that we can make the quantum leap. Now, when we do that, I mean, I used to be a computer programmer, but from the very, very old school. But this new generation of computer technologies about AI and some new way of thinking, completely different from what I'm used to. So we need the young folks like yourselves to be able to participate and guiding us. We do have a lot of experience, but we do need some guidance in terms of what new initiatives that we can undertake.
So, allow me to say something, as I just took this office in March. So I went around the world asking countries, what do they really want? What should we really focus on? And I met over 130 countries, more than 60 ministers, and more than CEOs and heads of 100 multilateral banks. And I can tell you what they're saying, because a lot of you are young, so it's very important how to plan your career. They said, don't tell me what to do. Don't give me a model, don't do a workshop, don't do a conference. I've had too much of reports telling me what to do and conferences and models telling me I need this in net zero. No, I need implementation support. Which means, can you create platforms that help in replicating large programs? So a lot of young people who are here, you can easily think about what's my modeling experience, what is it that I'm going to write a recommendation, put an article. I will strongly advise you, what the countries are saying is have on the ground experience. Dirty your hands, be part of very messy things on change. That is the only way change happens. What can organizations like International Solar Alliance do? We can create platforms. Because sometimes if you are a startup, if you are a small company, you don't know how to manage. So if you are a financial person who has some ideas on how to do finance, we have a global solar facility or an Africa solar facility. If you want to build capability, then in 17 countries there are centers of excellence. You can be part of them, or you can be part, as Woo Chong was saying, on a lot of cutting edge digital AI solutions. If you want to become SIDS, because you are from a small island states and you say, oh, I've been hearing about all the doomsday, where are the programs and projects? There's a platform to actually bring all the such SIDS countries together. If you want to understand how can new technologies like green hydrogen, perovskite, building integrated PV, do they have a future? There will be a lot of scope of working on new technologies. So I think as young people, my two parts of thoughts, and then I'm going to request Woo Chong to come in and then we'll open up the conversation. A, get into implementation. Don't think of 30,000 feet policy world. I can tell you it will look very sexy, very attractive, but it can be hollow. Until unless you get a lot of dirty on the ground experience first. And second, find platforms that are going to help you replicate your on the ground experience to larger things that can be done across countries. Those will be the two things that we should have a discussion. Woo Chong, what do you say? And then we open it up.
No, so he said something really, really important. After having many years of working in different kind of organizations, you see the people who are actually excelling and people who stagnate. What he's saying about implementation is that those people, there's one trait of the people who actually go up to the top like Ashish, are the people who can get stuff done. Whatever idea you have, you got to figure out how to implement it and get it done. From our side, the institutions and governments and whatever, our job is not to tell young folks what to do next, but where we need to go, so that they can figure out how to get there. with advice from us, right? Because if we tell them exactly this path to go, we're only following the same path that we know, which means we're not leveraging the new ideas and the brain power of the new people. And I have two children, 30 years and 28 years. The stuff they can do actually are quite phenomenal and beyond my imagination. So I think there has to be, we talk a lot about alliancing, us and Solar Alliance as well. It's about public sector, private sector, and philanthropic partnership, companies, think tanks, and so on and so forth. But I think we need to make a very conscious effort to galvanize the youth, because we are doing all these things because of you people and your children. So we need to bring you more involved, and then find solutions amongst yourselves, so that we can help you implement in the long run.
So let's open it up and come out with any questions, concerns that you have, and then it will lead to a conversation. Yes, why don't I hand over my mic to you?
I would like to ask you if you have ideas
Wait,
for
can you
teachers.
introduce yourself so let me know? Yeah.
Okay, hi, I am Taline. I live here in Belém. And I would like to ask you if you think there are ideas that the teachers in schools here in Belém can give to the students from a very young age already to introduce this universe of sustainability, about technology, this new wave of technology. How can we manage as teachers, because I am a teacher, for example, to implement in the schools for the young children, for example, teenagers?
Yeah. So I'll tell you an example I saw, and I've tried to implement in a lot of places. I went to China in 2007, and I saw World Bank had done a project in 2007 of putting a small solar on top of every high school. And I thought it is about energy, but it was not at all about energy. Every high school student was supposed to go and experiment on what can solar PV be used for. And I thought, how fascinating if I can have all the high school students' mind go completely creative. It doesn't cost much, because with just a couple of $1,000 you can have one high school, 10,000 high schools, no cost. But what it can do, creativity, because it's not about teaching in the classrooms, it's about unleashing their own creativity. Then I saw there was a program in India, it was called Innovation, where a grant of $10,000 is given to every school, and every school allows new technology to be tested by students. You can make a robo, you can make whatever you can. The idea is not that you're creating a $1 billion enterprise, but you're unleashing the creativity, because that may decide what careers they take. So I think there is a lot of those ideas, and more importantly, what I feel, what the teacher's best job is not to give solution, but to unlock their ability to think themselves. So I think you're doing a great job, the most important job of a teacher, and I think if you can only unlock their ability to dream and creativity, that would be great.
Yeah, if I may, a very, very good question. So my example is it was actually an example of my own kid, my son, when he was in high school about 12, 13 years ago. They had this initiative called the SIP, Sustainability Initiative Program, where it's a group of juniors and seniors who brought together, and then they invited a few teachers and some parents and industry leaders to talk about what can the school do to help with the climate change, right? So they mapped out exactly everything that happens that people do in the school and how it impacts climate. For example, getting to school, most people drove cars, right? To get there. Obviously, public transport or bus is much more efficient. In school cafeteria, there are lots of bottled water, and people are drinking that, and they understood the impact of that, and then the kind of food they ate, lots of beef and lots of things, animal products, vegetable, that's much more efficient. And then finally, the electricity, where it comes from, right? So as they spent like the whole semester, they came up with a program which the entire school community adopted. So they start to have options in the cafeteria with low carbon footprinted food. They actually decide to ban plastic bottles for the entire school, so that they actually bring their bottle and then they get it from the water fountain. They pulled money together, and actually I was on the school board, and they actually got budget approved to do this solar panel on the rooftop to contribute to the green electricity. So as they start to feel that actions they take actually has a contribution towards net zero eventually, they start to feel that what they do is meaningful. Now when you start doing that, the technologies like AI becomes much more meaningful, because you know that you learned that stuff, and you will be able to apply to the sustainability angle, right? So unleashing their awareness by knowledge, but also getting the feel of what it means to do those things, I think you're putting the children on the path that they will use their innovation to get to the sustainable development path that it.
Who else wants to ask a question? Yes, please go ahead.
Well, hello, good afternoon. My name is Larissa. I am 24 years old. I'm a teacher too. And I thought very interesting when he related about clean energy and the movie Back to the Future, because we are in the moment where we're talked about in the future, and we still don't have flying
We are in
cars.
the future now,
Yeah,
right?
we're in the future now, and we don't have flying cars. But they didn't think about the AR technology, as you said. And I was wondering, what is the relation? How can AR technology help us to increase the use of clean energy? I would like to know a little bit more about it, please. Thank you.
Wait, where are you from? You're from here?
Yes, from
Okay.
here.
Yeah. So we are actually working on this thing called digitized utility for energy transition. It's the acronym DUET, and we are pilot testing in India, in the state of Rajasthan, where we are digitizing a couple of section of the state, some substations, which means you have to codify the parameters of the substations. It becomes like digitized grid, and then once you have that, then we engage the local entrepreneurs who are India has a lot of very strong knowledge on computer and AI, so we develop AI application to optimize the operation of that digitized grid. So the net result is that the increased efficiency of the whole grid. So it does have an impact of reducing the CO2 emission by 30% from than business as usual. So if we are pilot testing this so that we can prove to everybody that locally produced AI solution will make a huge impact at the fraction of the cost that we would have had if you just adopted something that's developed in a developed country. And it's because it's developed locally, it's much more fit for purpose for the local conditions. So as we do this, we are hoping that many people around the world, of course the rest of India, but also in Africa, Latin America here, for people to learn so that the teachers can teach people for the future.
But let me share a dream with you on this. I feel what happened with Amazon on online buying. You are a younger generation, so you may not know, when we were young, we all went to grocery stores to actually buy all our utilities, everything. But Amazon has completely changed it. My view is that you will see almost a similar revolution in energy in 5-10 years. And that is where AI and energy will get completely intertwined. If you are in Belém, imagine you having a solar rooftop and a battery storage, and at some point of a time in the day when you feel you have already charged and the price is very good, you may actually sell back to the grid. And sometimes you may sell to your neighbor. Every consumer will become a generator as well and start selling electricity. So this business will become extremely complex. There will be millions of consumers and generators at the same time, and that's why the real-time digitization will become very important. That's it. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Fabricio, and I was to the why even the houses produce some energy. You know the houses, the okay. Oh, sorry. The houses here produce some energy, and here in solar, you know the solar energy, yes, solar cells, yes, but sometimes it happens overcharge or something. And how do you solve the problems between the states of Brazil or something?
I just want to understand your question. Is your question that how do you solve the rooftop solar not being available all the time? Right? And then how can different states coordinate? Okay.
It's also, how do you make sure there's electricity when there's no sun?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, that's what that point a few years ago was a big problem, but now with the advancement of the battery storage and the reducing cost of the battery storage is a game changer. So, as we integrate battery storage into the mainstream power grid, or even in the off-grid situation where you actually have a solar panel and then you have battery storage, we can actually make electricity competitive, the renewable energy competitive, both in terms of availability of electricity, so which means when there's no sun there's light, as well as the cost because of the lower cost of battery storage, and compared to the fossil fuel generation option. And this is where we are, as an alliance, working together to see what else can we do to bring down the cost of these things, right? So there could be some simple solutions like for like remote areas, when you try to buy equipments or batteries one by one, there's no volume, right? So it's expensive. But when you do like a bulk procurement, we've done something like that in Africa. In 5 countries, we actually bulk procured renewable energy equipments, which again reduced the cost of these equipments by 30%. So, not only the technology has improved, it's cheaper, but we try to make it even cheaper by enhancing the procurement of these kind of programs.
One more thing I will say is, in addition to storage makes it very cheap. There is now a discussion that why do all the glasses on the buildings not have solar PV? Why are roofs? Why do have separate solar rooftop when the roof itself should be made of solar PV panels? Why can't the side paint actually not have solar PV tiles? And this question is very important because I can tell you 70% of buildings in Asia and Africa by 2040 are yet to be constructed. So you can solve so much of energy needs if there was an innovation on how buildings are designed and what materials are used. You have one more question, but I must confess, let's see if somebody else has a question and then we'll come back to you. Anyone else with any question? We'll take two questions.
Okay. Hi, my name is Bruno. I'm from Belém. My question is how can solar energy be made more accessibility and inclusive for vulnerable communities and the developing countries?
Olá, meu nome é Diana, eu sou daqui de Belém e eu gostaria de perguntar. Meu nome é Diana, eu sou daqui de Belém e eu gostaria de perguntar qual é o marco mais urgente que o setor solar precisa alcançar até 2030 para manter as metas climáticas globais no caminho certo e como os países podem colaborar de forma mais eficaz para atingir esse objetivo.
I must say I'm very impressed by Belém. There's so many questions and all of you are here from here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so let me take a crack and you can come in. Yeah, so I echo amazing questions from everyone. So in terms of providing access, affordable access to people in the remote areas. No, for remote areas, actually, the renewable energy, solar and battery, it's even more cost-effective and convenient because you don't have to, transport fuel and things like that over there. But one of the things that we are trying to do is, aside from making the solar panel and the actual provision of electricity cheaper, we help the communities who will get the electricity to effectively use that electricity for their productivity. So for their agriculture, for the farmers, for them to increase their productivity, for the cold storage for the fisher folks, so that they can actually store fish and then increase their income. So by enhancing the prosperity of the users, you're actually making the whole thing much more viable. In addition to the work we can do to bring down by bulk procuring the solar panels and the batteries to make that part cheaper. On the second question about what is the most urgent, I mean the technological advancement is something that private sector will lead, and they're doing a good job. My job, and perhaps his job, is how to make sure that finance flow from developed countries to the developing countries, because there are still billion people out there who do not have electricity, and unless you help them in a green way, they'll find the way to get the energy, which means they're going to resort to fossil fuel. So urgency is making sure that we help the governments create the enabling environment. We also help project developers to make more bankable projects, from turn concepts into projects that are financeable, bankable. And then also provide the mechanisms through which we can reduce the risk for the investors to put their money into developing countries rather than developed countries. So having the financial flow to where the battle that's being fought in terms of climate, to be able to implement effective infrastructure investments so that we can actually make a big difference in providing access to green energy and reducing the greenhouse gas.
Let me add, there's a great response. Let me add two quick things. One is solar by itself is modular. You can have million panels together, or you can have only one panel together. Which means if a farmer wants a pump, today the solar pump is 1/3 the cost of a diesel pump. So why should anybody in the world have a diesel-based pump? Why that question is very important, there are areas like Wu Chong was saying in Africa, only 4% of arable land has irrigation. Unlike Brazil, which has commercial farming, India, which has 60% of that land, China has 70%. Africa, unfortunately, does not have food security because it has not managed solar irrigation. That's very important. The second part, what is the big issue? I think, unfortunately, I call it ecosystem. For any country to do solar, it needs to have the right policy, right skills, right institutions, and financing available. If you have some of them missing, very difficult. But what is the biggest thing is skills. And I personally feel if we can create the right skills and mindsets, we'll move there. I know you have to go. It's 2:30. Thank you so much, all of you at Belém. You are doing an amazing job. I'm so impressed by your questions. Wish you all the best. Thank you for joining.